Behind me is a 2005 Nissan X-Trail, the first generation, albeit after a very mild facelift. It belongs to my friend Tim of Cambrian Classics, and he has a deep personal connection to this car, but we're going to cover later in this video. I'm just going to explore what it's like to drive and what this whole SUV thing was all about. Oh, I can hear the hate in the comments already. X-Trail was launched in the year 2000 and was Nissan's first soft roader, if you perhaps exclude the rather strange Nissan Rasheen. But it has got all the looks, all the hallmarks of a proper 4x4, but yet is based on the Almera Primera platform. It was also used in later versions of the Nissan Serena MPV. I happen to like the styling. I actually test drove one of these when they were new, because that's how boring I was as a sort of 20-something-year-old. But I thought the styling was absolutely bob on. Mind you, I was a fan of the Nissan Terrano 2 that this effectively replaced. The Terrano 2, very much a proper four-wheel drive, dual-range gearbox, rear-wheel drive, selectable four-wheel drive, whereas this, being developed from a car platform, is much more front-wheel drive, will send some drive to the rear if you require it. But this has got the facelift headlights, which have got, I like this detail, the little blue lamp in there, very pretty jeweled headlamps, early 2000 absolute must-haves. But yeah, the facelift was a slightly different grille, and these bits were slightly chunkier, and that was kind of about it really. This is the SVE spec. There was the T spec, which also had electronic stability control, and weirdly no other model did. But that's what differentiates it, and it's in this fetching shade of deep black, and it's a car that was absolutely loved by its first owner, as we shall explore in the history a bit later on. But let's get inside and have a look. What makes this so interesting? No, it is interesting, believe me. So here we are inside, and it looks fairly bog standard, fairly standard Nissan stalks, some nice steering wheel buttons. Yeah, we got an actual sat nav. That was part of the SVE spec, I think, back in the day, so naturally that's out of date. This is your four-wheel drive selector. It can be in two-wheel drive. It'll split 57-43 and send drive where it's actually needed, or you can lock it at that 57-43, I think, or possibly even a 50-50. So it kind of has a center lock. Air conditioning, climate control, all done on buttons, and it's got the 4-speed automatic transmission. Well, really it's kind of a 3-speed with an overdrive. There's the overdrive button on the side. But yeah, I don't know why they decided that needed to open like that, but it does. So there's a bit of storage there. There's some storage under here, a very deep storage box there, heated seats, and it's black leather as well. We've got a glove box under here that's mostly full of the original owner books. Look, there's an entire one just for the navigation system. Speaking of which, that takes up some space here. So we've got a DVD-ROM, so you can update your sat-nav. I wonder if anyone ever did. In front of the driver, we got storage here, and there's actually a 12-volt power outlet, so you can charge your phone in front of you. And I like this. You got a hidden vent there for a bit more ventilation. I'm going to leave that open. Little flap here, and you can store some loose change or what have you down there. Door pockets as well. Open the door again because it's getting a bit warm in here. We've got power fold electric mirrors, and still a few blanking plugs. There's obviously more you could spec, perhaps in other markets. I need to talk about some of the other markets. They did some very interesting things. Look at how well judged that is. Just enough room to open the ashtray. But it's a really nice driving position. We've got the panoramic sunroof open at the moment. I may actually close that because that is fierce. But having that open, it feels so lovely and light and airy in here. And generally, the glass is of such a generous nature. Nice big rear window, so there's a good view out behind, and nice big sun visors with even got a vanity mirror Oh, hello, what a handsome fellow. On the driver's side, buttons up here for different things, including the roof. We will have a play with the roof. You've got to have a play with the roof, haven't you? In fact, let's fire up the ignition and play with the roof. Let's go this way. So this is the roof sliding away. Seemingly impossibly, it goes that far back. So that definitely a generous sunshine roof, or moon roof if you prefer. But gosh, that sun is fierce today. And then alternatively, with a separate button, you can raise the back or lower it. But yeah, I think we're going for that one today. Oi. The seats are electric as well, electric adjustment, which I don't like on black leather because it always makes me think of a dentist's chair. As you start sort of going backwards, I find it a little disconcerting. But yeah, it's a great driving position. You got that commanding view of the road, and let's be honest, that's what people got into SUVs for. But I think another reason is comfort, because if you look at where my knees are, that is a comfortable way of sitting. I don't much like having my legs stretched out in front of me like in a conventional car, and by lifting things up, you actually get more space per human in the car. So let's see if that translates to the rear. I apologise for the noisy crows, but yeah, look, loads of knee room, even with the driver's seat set for me, and plenty of headroom, despite the fact we've obviously got a sunroof robbing quite a bit of height. So if you've got particularly tall passengers, don't go for the sunroof. But yeah, very comfortable. We've got this fold down armrest as well for a bit more executive feel, and because lifestyle, we can actually pull this down so we can store our skis in the car, because obviously that's very important if you're lifestyling hard. It's a bit compromised in terms of the middle seat. I think it's kind of styled very much more as a four-seater, but there is still a head restraint for the middle seat occupant, and a proper 3-point seatbelt as well. So ideal for all the family. The boot is a good size as well. Note we've got the accessory boot floor cover here, as well as the stainless trim there, and loads of lashing points, including some up here. So loads of tie downs, and I think you could actually get a cargo net as one of the official accessories as well. And impressively, under here, I mean, even the floor itself is quite hard wearing. We've got a full-size spare wheel under there, which I think is impressive. And there's also little cubbies either side that lift up and hold things like the jack. So there's a lot of stuff that's been very well thought out, but obviously the suspension turrets do rob a bit of boot space, stop it being a completely accessible area. But the seats fold, and actually I've just remembered something very clever about those seats, and that's that you can change the position through this rack here. You can adjust how far back it goes. Let's try that. Oh yeah, that feels relaxed. Perhaps a little too much though. I might just have a bit of a snooze, to be honest. No, there is filming to do. So under the bonnet of this one, we find the 2.5 litre petrol engine, twin cam. I think it's a chain driven camshaft on these, and fuel injection, all that sort of nonsense. But obviously transverse layout, ascending drive, rearwards as required. Look at the size of the alternator. But at least it's right up here in your face, as are the things like the screen wash coolant level. And I don't know if there's meant to be a plastic cover over it. It's of that generation, but it probably was. But it nonetheless looks like an actual engine. This one has had some work, as we shall find out when we chat to Tim in a bit. But you can see the wipers there. Look at the length of that passenger wiper arm. Oh, you know I want to play with these. Right, let's fire her up. Get that aircon working, and we can do the important business of the windscreen wiper test. So look at that arc. Lovely bit of design, good overlap, no triangle of doom, very little unswept area at the top of the windscreen, and very little in the way of dribbles going on. Tiny little triangle down the bottom of the screen, but really that's a pretty impressive wiper performance. I approve. On the rear, like a lot of Japanese, you can operate the washer with the wiper on or before you operate the wiper. That's always a nice touch, I like that. But pretty decent wiping performance. Bit of a corner of ignorance over on this side, but compared to modern SUVs that have tiny little wipers and tiny little rear windows, I'm going to say that's pretty decent. So gear selector into drive, indicated there and on the transmission itself, and smoothly we drive away. I have actually driven this before, you know. Tim let me have a drive of it when he first got it, and it was a bit disappointing because the engine wasn't running right. But I'll let Tim tell you what was found and how it was resolved. But now it is nice and smooth. So the 2.5 litre engine has about 165 brake horsepower, I think, and 230 newton meters of torque. So it's a pretty punchy power plant, and allied to either the 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual gearbox. But it was also a 2 litre, which was 140 brake horsepower. I think that's what I drove. I think I drove a 2 litre Sport, and there was also a diesel option, a 2.2 litre turbo diesel. But by the time of this facelift, I think I've been upgraded to about 136 brake horsepower. But I think the 2.5 petrol probably an unusual choice, and it's an engine that is now beset by taxation issues. The vehicle excise duty for the 2.5 litre is not kind, let's put it that way. But yeah, it certainly feels like what it is. It feels like a halfway house between a car and a more traditional 4x4. Having owned a Ford Maverick, which was a rebadged Tirano 2, it was unmistakably a proper 4x4. It really felt it, albeit its road manners were pretty decent. This does feel, yeah, it's got some of that 4x4 feel, but ultimately being derived from a car, it also behaves in a much more car-like manner. It doesn't feel quite so big, it doesn't feel quite so hefty. And really the X-Trail was the answer to cars like the Toyota RAV4 and the Land Rover Freelander, and in turn they were a response to the fact people were buying these huge chunky great 4x4s, or even the little ones like the Suzuki SJs and the Vitaras. Really quite crude in some ways, quite a lot of them, and yet people were buying them for the lifestyle thing. So manufacturers realised, well, maybe we can do something that isn't quite so 4x4, because these people aren't going off-road. They might drive onto a beach every now and then, or into a slightly damp field. They're not chucking it down green lanes on a regular basis. So it's like, well, maybe we don't need the green lane stuff. We don't need the dual range transmission. Maybe we can get away with just a bit more ground clearance and a sort of optional four-wheel drive system. And that proved a massive recipe for success. And now we got to the stage where they don't even bother with a four-wheel drive system half the time. People just want the looks. But I don't think it is just looks. I mean, looks play a part. It, you know, says adventure. It says I am someone who's living my life, perhaps, to the people who own them. But I think it's more about the fact that people like the upright driving position, and people are kind of rebelling against lying down on the floor. And I think you just feel a bit more alert, a bit more purposeful, perhaps. Or maybe I'm just talking utter rubbish, but I can certainly understand why SUVs are popular. But yeah, this is really well mannered. But we'll get her on some faster roads and let her sing a bit. Now Tim has thankfully put some miles on it after quite a bit of engine work. Well, we caught that pickup quickly, didn't we? Yeah, it gets down the road well. That felt a little slippy in second, perhaps. He's done a couple of gearbox fluid changes on it. But yeah, when it revs, you definitely know it's revving. It is not a quiet engine, but because it's a fairly sizable engine in terms of capacity, it seems to get down the road quite nicely without having to hoof it. So now we're gathering pace below 3,000 revs, and we're still at 50 and knocking on the door of 60. That's nice. That's kind of effortless grunt. And when you haven't got your foot mashed to the carpet, the engine remains fairly nice and quiet. Certainly seems a very smooth transmission, and it is a proper conventional gearbox, not one of these CVTs which Nissan grew incredibly fond of. They're very strange systems. A little bit of road and wind noise perhaps, maybe because of these massive mirrors. And there's another SUV benefit. SUVs tend to have massive door mirrors, and I'm not sure why that is. Is it just because chunky? But it means you get superb visibility. They're excellent on motorways because you can see so much of what's going on around you. I might open that up a bit, make myself a little less dark in here. It is nice to have the option. We don't get to worship the sun very often here in Wales. So the X-Trail was launched in the year 2000, October 2001 in the UK and Europe, and this first generation, after its facelift in about 2003 I think, was replaced by a broadly similar model with different mechanical package, and that was in 2007. So it was a fairly short life really, and already these are becoming quite rare. I suspect the vehicle excise duty doesn't help, but also because it's beefier, I suspect the parts prices are a bit higher than a regular hatchback. So it's one of those things where what's appealing when new isn't necessarily appealing as a cheap budget car further down the road. But I'm very pleased this one is in the hands of Tim. In fact, let's go and have a chat with Tim and discuss the amazing brochures and the history of this particular car. So as I mentioned, this car has quite a personal history with Tim, and we're going to have a look at the history of the car through some of the brochures and learn more about the original owner. So what is the history of this car then?
Well, this car belonged to a very good friend of mine, Mike, who bought the car new when he sold his business in the Midlands. He used to make gaskets and rubber seals and things like that. He had a factory there. And then this was the first car he ever bought new. Everything else had been company cars. So when he did that, he went out and bought this from Nissan, brand new.
Yeah, wow.
And Mike and I did a lot together over the years. And we sort of restarted the local MG club in 2011-ish. So through that, we became really good friends. We built a lot of cars together, did a lot of restoration projects. And my red MGB, actually, it was him and me that put the engine in together and things like that.
Yeah, I know how much fun that car is.
Yeah. So yeah, and over the years we've done quite a bit. He was instrumental in encouraging me to start up Cambrian Classics, and was there at the beginning helping me set up and lending an extra hand when I needed to do awkward two-man jobs, so he was, a second father to me, really. So it's great really to have this car to have been passed on to me, and he took great care over it, and really
I can see that.
was super fastidious with it. He
look
recorded
at that for a history.
He recorded literally everything he ever did with it.
Yeah.
Dates, mileages. Every service had a check sheet with everything ticked off, and
all the paperwork.
There's also a load of separate invoices, etc. And this is all the paperwork that came and brochures that were with it when he bought the car. The specification lists and optional extras, and even the price list from 2005 when it was first bought.
Yeah, I love this because obviously lifestyle. It just, the whole thing screams lifestyle. But nothing perhaps dates this more than when you get to the some of the interior fitments, like the phone holder, and suddenly you go, oh yes, that was a long time ago. Anyone else have one of those Nokias? They were certainly all the rage. And there are a few accessories. It has the accessory aluminium strip here.
Yeah,
on the back
for the dog getting in and out.
Yeah.
he fairly highly spec'd it. It's the 2.5 litre SVE. There's panoramic roof and heated leather seats, and there's the sat nav in the middle of the dash. Yeah, there's quite a few extras in there. So yeah, it's going to be a workhorse for me now. My MX-5 is probably going to go, and I'm going to keep this. And
yeah, but you've done a load of work to the car, so you're going to have to get right in.
Yes, I am. Yeah. So just at the end, when Mike was ill, it started to get a bit of a misfire, and it turns out that it was a fuel injector, but the fuel injector had caused a burnt valve. So I've had to take the head off, strip the head, recut the valve seats, new set of exhaust valves. So a head rebuild, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's now running lovely again.
And what's the mileage now?
138,000 miles.
Wow.
And it's super quiet, super smooth. It's a lovely thing to drive. They just couldn't see let it go. You know, it was Mike's one of his prized possessions, and he loved it. And I couldn't see it go to be binned because it had a significant engine problem. So,
yeah. Well done.
Yeah.
And yeah, right, back to the road test. Oh, I'm feeling lifestyle now. I've got the roof back, I've got the windows down. We're coming down this very tight road towards Llangranog. We are meeting vans and having to reverse. Because we are so lifestyle. I really should have my surfboard on the roof, but then if I had that on the roof, I wouldn't be able to use the sunroof. So, you know, sometimes lifestyling is harder than you think. But yeah, as you can see through the chat with Tim, this is a car that means a lot to him. It used to belong to someone who clearly means an awful lot to him. And yeah, it's not hard to see why, really. There's a clear factor in his life, and I love that Tim now gets to look after this car as well. And seems to be doing a grand old job of it, if you don't mind my saying. I might go for a bit of second gear. It's a weird, the overdrive effectively is third gear, so it locks out top gear. So it goes 1, 2, D, and then for 3 you press the overdrive button. All a bit peculiar, but very Japanese. That's just how they did things back then. There we are. Oh, I can do some serious lifestyling down here once this Qashqai gets out of the way. By the way, Llangranog, home to the best pizzas in the world. I'm going to say Taveshatan on my left here. The pizzas are incredible. I now want one. Excuse me, lifestyling coming through. Bit of a tight fit through here. Oh yeah, you see they got the sand, the sea. This is very clear lifestyling. The ladder, perilously close to the road, but we're going to make sure we don't hit. Yeah. Oh, surfboards. Didn't need to bring my own surfboard. Look, I got them. Thankfully, everyone knows here knows I'm all of the lifestyle. Lovely old Renault tractor. Somehow hasn't rusted away completely. All right, we have to do some pretty serious lifestyling now to get up this hill, especially as people are parked where they shouldn't. That's actually swinging room for this junction. Oh yeah, good turning circle. Oh yeah, plenty of power for getting up the old hill here. Yes, I think this will do as a spot to test the lifestyleness of the Nissan X-Trail. No, you don't need a car like this, but I absolutely see what the appeal of it is, and this is just such a particularly lovely example. It's perfect for exploring this beautiful part of the world. Miss Hubnut has done a video on this place. We really shouldn't have. This is our secret. Don't come here. You heard it from me first. But yeah, really nice car to drive actually. And I'm trying to think, it must be what, 25 years since I drove one of those? Terrifying. I don't know what I was doing really. I'm surprised the salesman let me have a drive in it. It must have been like, you don't look very lifestyle. You look like a bored office hippie. But nonetheless, yeah, very grateful to Tim for letting me drive this lovely example of the Nissan X-Trail. And thank you very much for watching. Wish you see you in a future video. Farewell. Hey, some view. Lifestyling. Woo!